What's up, Foxden Fox here, and inside of this dusty PC lays an even dustier CPU. The AMD Athlon II X3 435. Now, I never would have bought this CPU, and luckily I didn't have to. I was given this PC, and that explains the state of it. Now, usually I would clean this off and give it the best chance possible, but this just fits the AMD Athlon X3. The AMD Athlon X3 has 3 cores and 3 threads, with a clock speed of 2.9 GHz, a TDP of 95 watts, and ATI Radeon HD 4200 graphics. It has a whopping core speed of 500 MHz, 512 megabytes of allowed memory, has DirectX 10.1, and a whole 40 shading units. Even at the time, the 3-core CPUs weren't considered anything special, especially because you could unlock them and get 4-core CPUs. I did not do that because this is inside of a Dell. That's also why I didn't put in a graphics card, because this is a Dell system, so it's not going to have the power to draw anything above an RX 550, which I did consider doing if I didn't lose my screwdriver. But maybe in a future video, if you would like to see me do a full CPU performance test, I am happy to do so. But the CPU itself is not fantastic. It gets to 100% utilization opening Google Docs with Task Manager open. Not to mention, this is on a hard drive, so everything is already very slow. But nonetheless, I tested some games, so let's get into the benchmarks. The first game that I tested was Left 4 Dead 2. At the lowest settings at 480p, we saw an average frame rate of 29 with a 1% low of 14 and a 0.1% low of 12. So, the issue is the stutter in this case. The actual average frame rate sometimes would be close to 60 FPS, but then dip immensely whenever there were enemies on screen down to the low 20s. So most of the time, this was an unplayable experience. And considering Athlon chips are known for their graphics, especially these days, I was kind of surprised at how poorly it ran. But a game that ran very well was Half-Life 2. At the lowest settings at 720p, we saw an average frame rate of 74 with a 1% low of 50 and a 0.1% low of 40. So there was no stutter to speak of, which is surprising on a 3-core chip, and the game ran very well throughout. You could actually crank up the settings a little bit or go to full resolution, which I think is actually less than 720p. So on my monitor that I had that was included with this PC, it was a 1024 by 768 monitor, which is why Call of Duty 4 at the lowest settings was tested at 1024 by 768 with an average frame rate of 42, a 1% low of 28, and a 0.1% low of 19. So not the newest Call of Duty for sure, but you're gonna get a playable enough experience if you want to play Call of Duty 4, which is still a very fun game on PC. There's a lot of mods for it that people do, and the server browser is amazing, so I still think that there's merit to playing a game like this. And if you have an Athlon X3, first of all, I'm sorry. Second of all, you should be able to play Call of Duty 4 with no issues. Last but not least is Elder Scrolls Oblivion. At the low settings at 1024 by 768, we saw an average frame rate of 52, a 1% low of 17, and a 0.1% low of 9. So leave it up to the Bethesda to make unoptimized games for multi-core processors, and Oblivion is no different. Although we saw a high average frame rate, the 1% and 0.1% lows designate that this game is pretty much unplayable with the amount of stutter there was. Now, I'd like to go more in-depth with this CPU at some point, and I would like to throw a graphics card in here, but it's going to take me some time to do so. But I kind of like the idea of playing older games on the Athlon X3 if it wasn't so slow. If I were to throw an SSD in there, I think it would be perfectly fine. I could see it as an emulation machine if you're playing like really old games. But otherwise, I think that the Athlon X3, especially being on the AM3 platform, is kind of DOA, because AM3 as a whole is DOA. I mean, you can get an FX 8350, which is 8 cores and 16 threads, I believe, or it's 8 and 8. I think it's 8 and 8, and it still won't perform very well. I had that as my first PC, and it was slow even when we bought it. So these days, I highly recommend just getting an AM4 Athlon instead. And if you're still rocking this, let me know in the comments down below, because I'm interested to see if anybody is running an Athlon 3 anymore. If you're running anything on the actual AM3 motherboard, let me know, because I think it's a very interesting socket, and I do want to upgrade this PC at some point to have an 8350 in it, so that way I can recreate my old PC. But that'll be a different story for a different day. Today was mainly about the ATI Radeon HD 4200 graphics, but the CPU itself also struggled quite a lot in these games. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, like, subscribe, do what you usually do, and as always, buy yourself something nice.